Aminur. My ID is 222156232. Now I am discuss about network address translation. Network address translation is a process in which one or more local IP addresses are translated into one or more global IP addresses and vice versa to provide internet access to the local host. It also does the translation of port numbers. Example marks the port number of the host with another port number in the packet that will be routed to the destination. It then makes the corresponding integers of IP addresses and port number in the NAT table. Now I am discuss about NAT inside and outside addresses. This image represents network address translation and highlight the different types of addresses involved in NAT. This is the private network, this is public, and this is the outside global network. Inside local IP addresses of a device inside the private network. That means this network. Local private IP address used before translation. Inside the global, public IP addresses assigned to the internet device by NAT for external communication. That means this network. This is the translated address visible on the internet. Outside global public IP addresses of the external device. That means this network. This is the external destination IP visible to the sender. Outside global network, private IP addresses of the external devices. Private IP addresses of the global devices used inside another private network. The inside device, that means this device communicates with and outside devices using and public IP. That means this IP to access the internet. NAT translate the inside local IP. That means this IP to the inside global IP. That means this IP for communications across the public network. On the receiving side, that means this sites the destination's global IP. That means this IP may also be mapped to an outside local IP. That means this IP. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Sabir Ahmed. My ID is 322156094. So our topic is types of net. We know there are three types of net: static net, dynamic net, and PAT. PAT means port address translation. Static net maps a single private IP address to a single public IP address. Normally, when we used a single private IP address, that time we used one public IP address. When a specific device on a private network needs to be accessible from the public network, that time we used static net. Dynamic net use a pool of public IP address. Dynamic net we used mainly when we used internal device need to internet access but not simultaneously. That time we used dynamic net. Port address translation. Normally we multiple private IP addresses to a single public IP addresses using different port. That time we used PAT. Disadvantages of net. Normally, translation results in switching per delay, slower network performance or high traffic, sometimes problems with peer-to-peer application, sometimes header to monitor, debug, and manage network, complicated turning protocols such as IPsec. Also, the router being a network layer device should not tamper with port number. Delays of adoption of IPv6, more difficult to diagnose and track issues. Now, advantages of NET. NET conserves legally registered IP address, shares one public IP for many private IPs, hides private IP from external threat, unlimited device can be added to the network, efficient internet internal communication, eliminates addresses remembering when a network evaluates. NAT is a practical and cost-effective solution for IPv4 network, offering security, scalability, and efficient use of public IP address. When it introduces some limitations, its advantages make it essential for modern network until IPv6 adoption becomes widespread. Thank you for my presentation.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Maksudul Hasan Koka. My ID is 222156426. Now I am going to talk about my topic, why we use network address translation. Network address translation allows a single device, such as a router, to act as an agent between the internet or public network and a local or private network. This means that only a single unique IP address is required to represent an entire group of computers. So the shortage of IP address is only one reason to use NET. Now I am going to my next slide, types of NET. Here is three types of NET: static NET, dynamic NET, port address translation. So what is static NET? Static NET performs one-to-one translation between two addresses or between a port on one address to a port on other address. Static NET is most often used to assign a public address to a device behind a NET-enabled firewall router. So what is dynamic NET? Dynamic NET utilizes a pool of global address to dynamically translate the outbound traffic client behind a NET-enabled device. And the third one is port address translation. What is port address translation? NET overload a port address translation translate the outbound traffic of clients to unique port number of a single global address. Port address translation is necessary when the number of internet clients extend the available global address. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. My name is Shaheen. My ID is 222156362. Today I am going to telling you how NET works. First of all, what is NET? NET is a network address translation. Now I am going to tell you how NET works. Let's start by understanding how NET works. NET operates at the router level, sitting between a private network and a public internet. It performs two key functions: outbound communication. When a device in the private network, such as your smartphone, sends a request to an external server, for example, to access website, NAT replaces the device's private IP address with the router's public IP address in the packet header. This ensures that the data packet can traverse the public internet. Inbound communication: when the external server sends a response, it arrives at the NAT device public IP address. NAT then identifies the appropriate private IP address of the original requester and forward the packet back to the device. This two-way translation is seamless and ensure secure and efficient communication between private and public network. Example: think about using Wi-Fi at home. If you have multiple devices like a phone, laptop, and smart TV, they all share a single public IP address to communicate with the internet. NAT manage this by assigning private IPs to each device and translating this into the public IP when sending or receiving data. And my next slide about application of NAT. And it's incredibly versatile, and here are some of its primary application. Home router. And it is most commonly used in home networks. It allows multiple devices to share a single internet connection by assigning private IPs within the network. while using one public for IP for external communication. Example, if you are streaming Netflix on your smart TV and browsing the web on your laptop simultaneously, NAT ensure both devices can use the internet efficiently without needing separate public IPs. Data center. Number two, data centers. In large scale environments like data centers, NAT helps simplify network architecture and improve security by using private IPs internal. It minimizes the net number of public IPs needed and reduces exposure to potential threats. Example, a cloud service provider hosting hundreds of virtual servers can use NAT to assign private IPs internally while providing selective public IP access to clients. Number three, corporate network. In large organization, and it is essential for managing vast private network with limited public IP allocation. It enables centralized control over external communication and helps maintain security. Example, consider a multinational company with thousands of employee devices and it ensures these devices can access internal service through a few public IPs while maintaining unique private IPs internally. That's it. Thank you.